Joyce is apparently looking to have a warm-up fight before facing Daniel Dubois in April. Negotiations are ongoing between the two teams, Team Joyce and Team Dubois. They've both got the same promoter in Frank Warren, but Warren appears to be more pro-Dubois than pro-Joyce. Joyce has got this manager, Sam Jones, who a lot of people don't like, but it is what it is. I personally find Jones very funny because of the fact that so many people don't like him, because of the fact that he winds people up unintentionally, intentionally, I'm not sure. But I think it's a good idea for Joyce to have a tune-up fight in the interim period, because he was supposed to fight Marco Hook. That fell through. Rather than allow this long period of inactivity, would be good for him to get in the ring and get a couple of rounds at least, because Daniel Dubois only just fought in December. Even though it wasn't much of a fight, he still got out in front of a crowd and all that kind of stuff. So I think it'd be a good idea for Joyce to get a warm-up. I've been listening to some of Boxing Beats and Rhymes videos where he talks about this particular fight or potential fight, and he thinks that maybe Dubois' people would have more reason to swerve this fight than Joyce's people. I personally think it's the other way around. I think Joyce's people have got more reason to swerve this fight because Joyce has got a decent world ranking. Joyce, at 34 years old, can't afford a setback as much as Daniel Dubois can. How old is Dubois now? 21, 22? If you lose to a Olympic silver medalist, somebody who did well in the World Series of Boxing, and Dubois only had, 15 fights or something like that, very early stage of his career. If he was to lose at this point, he can bounce back. He's got years and years ahead of him, potentially. Joyce at 34, wherever he is, 35, if he was to lose to Daniel Dubois, that's a real long road back for him, and he doesn't have all the time Dubois got. He's like, 8 years older than Dubois or something like that? And it's not just how good you are at your, because look, fighters age at different rates. Perhaps Joyce is young because he doesn't have miles on the clock by way of taking punishment, although in some of them World Series of Boxing fights, he took a lot of punishment, certainly in the Usyk fight. And of course, punishment he's taken in the gym, the punishment his body has taken, putting himself through all the training over the decades, okay? But nonetheless, even if you are relatively fresh at 34, 35, and you lose a fight, the industry don't look at you the same way anymore. And because the industry don't look at you the same way, people don't want to invest money in you. That's one of the big problems when you're an older fighter. It's not just how good you are or how good you aren't. It's the way promoters and the money men in boxing look at you. If you're an old guy, well, they don't want to spend any money on you. One, because they don't believe in you at your age that you can do things. And for two, even if they bring you in as an opponent and you're old, they're thinking, okay, well, you're still dangerous. And if you beat my guy, then it's going to look bad because he just lost to an old guy who's, lost in the past or whatever. So that's the issue with being up there in age as a heavyweight prospect like Joyce. But right now, Joyce is unbeaten. As I say, he's in a similar position to Daniel Dubois. He's fought better opposition than Dubois, let's be real, which is, again, one of the reasons why it won't be so bad if Dubois loses to Joyce right now. Joyce has beaten Brian Jennings. I know a lot of people dispute that decision, and I can understand why. If that fight had been in the United States, Jennings probably would have got it. But nonetheless, on his record, Joyce has beaten Bryant Jennings. He's beaten Berman Stavern. He's beaten people who have been participating in world level fights in the past. Okay. Daniel Dubois hasn't beaten anybody like that. So Dubois can afford a loss right now. They don't want a loss, obviously. But when a guy is that young and when they've got so much excuses, I guess, which they could use if he was to lose to Joyce. Oh, well, he's young. Joyce is very experienced. This, that, and the other. Joyce had beaten people who had competed at world level before Daniel Dubois hadn't. We just needed to bring him along a little bit more sensibly with the matchmaking. You know what I mean? People will accept those reasons and those excuses. at this stage. Obviously, if Joyce had taken a few losses and people didn't believe in Joyce and then Dubois lost to him, it'd be a different story altogether. But as it currently stands, I think Dubois could bounce back more easily from a loss from a PR perspective than Joyce could right now. So I think, and from what I can see, Joyce's people are a bit more cautious when it comes to taking this fight than Dubois' people. Because again, Joyce is looking at it like, I can get a European title fight against Marco Huck. I could maybe get a voluntary shot for one of the belts. That's where Joyce is thinking about going at this point. Daniel Dubois, in Joyce's mind, that's kind of a step back. That's the British and Commonwealth. I'm trying to go up to world and European and world, not British and Commonwealth, you know? So I get it from Joe Joyce's perspective, but there does appear to be a lot of pressure from his promoter, Frank Warren, in terms of where Joe Joyce goes from here. Because at the end of the day, even though Joe Joyce is not managed by Frank Warren, he's fighting on Frank Warren shows. And if Frank Warren wants to put pressure on Joyce to take the Dubois fight, he can do it by saying, well, we don't really have money for that opponent that you want, Joe, on that particular show. Sorry, we ain't got that. Oh, but you can fight Daniel Dubois, though, if you want to fight on this other show. Oh, we got money for that. It will sell more tickets. It's a big heavyweight clash, but these other fights that you want, Joe, we just don't have the money for it. That's how promoters, in a subtle way, can force some of their fighters to take particular fights. And there might be, I don't know if there might be an element, it's possible, of that going on here with this Joe Joyce situation, where Frank Warren has made no secret of the fact that he wants that fight. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Joyce versus Dubois. As far as how it's going to go, I think most people are picking Dubois. I did do a poll, I believe. I can't remember if it was in my Facebook boxing group. I did a poll. Most people were picking Daniel Dubois over Joe Joyce. Very few people are picking Joyce to win the fight. I think Joyce's lack of speed and his lack of defense play a big part. Are people underestimating Joe Joyce? I think Joe Joyce is an easy guy to underestimate because he looks so beatable. But when you look at his record, particularly in the World Series of Boxing and his amateur record, it's win, 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 win against all these top-level fighters. This guy beat Hrgovic in the World Series of Boxing. That fight's on YouTube. You can go watch it. He beat Hrgovic. Hrgovic, for my money, looks easily as impressive as Daniel Dubois so far as a pro. And Joe Joyce beat that guy. So somehow, some way, even though Joyce looks horrible in the ring, he looks slow, he looks awkward, somehow he's effective. It's the strangest thing. And Joyce, as awkward as he is, and in terms of his movement, he does remind you of a young George Foreman, because a young George Foreman was also slow and clunky and all that kind of stuff. But a young George Foreman also had tremendous punching power. With Joe Joyce, you don't even see tremendous punching power. I mean, he's heavy-handed, but you don't see the viciousness in his punches that you saw in a young George Foreman's punches. So it's the strangest thing with Joe Joyce, how he's been as successful as he has in the World Series of Boxing and as an amateur. But the results don't lie. You know what I mean? A lot of people think he actually should be a gold medalist and that he was robbed in the finals against Tony Yoka. Now, I personally don't think so, but a lot of people do. So he's an easy guy to underestimate. Will he be able to deal with Daniel Dubois? I think Dubois is, of course, talented. He hits hard. He's got a very nice jab. Dubois is slow himself, though. He's not the fastest heavyweight in the world. He looks like Usain Bolt next to Joe Joyce in terms of speed, but Dubois is not particularly fast. Let me not say he's outright slow. He's got average speed for a heavyweight, Daniel Dubois. He's not particularly fast. And he's quite defensively irresponsible, Daniel Dubois, when he starts exchanging. There's a lot of defensive irresponsibility there. Will Joe Joyce be able to exploit that and capitalize on that? Because with boxing, it's all about styles. I've just talked about all the credentials that Joe Joyce has got, amateur and in the World Series of Boxing, but does his style match up well with Dubois' style? I saw some people discussing it on a boxing forum, and they were saying it's all going to come down to Joe Joyce's chin, whether he has the ability to absorb Dubois' power. If he does, then he's going to give Dubois nightmares. I don't know. I would certainly have to say Dubois looks a lot more polished than Joyce. But I don't know. It's an intriguing fight. There's a lot of questions about both men as professionals, which is why I want to see it so much. Let me just leave it at that. Rather than pontificating about what happens when the styles match up, when you've got two guys where there's a lot of questions to answer about both of them, where they both haven't really proven much as professionals, it's more guesswork than any kind of informed opinion when it comes to picking a winner. It's more guesswork because you're guessing how you think somebody's going to react in a particular situation, or how somebody's going to react to the punching power, or whether somebody's going to be able to exploit defensive frailties. You're guessing more than anything because you haven't seen them in them situations before in a professional fight. So let's just hope the fight happens in April, and then we won't have to do any more guesswork. We can just see for ourselves. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's happening. I'm out. Join me on Patreon. I upload a minimum of 2 podcasts every single week, covering a wide variety of controversial topics, as well as live stream Q&A sessions. Take a look on screen right now at some of the podcasts I've produced so far. For just $3 a month, the equivalent of about £2 a month, you get access to all my new podcasts and my entire back catalogue of past podcasts, including my popular Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You can listen on your computer or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the Patreon app from the Google Play Store or the App Store for free. The Patreon app also allows you to download each podcast in MP3. For less than the price of a cup of coffee, you get access to dozens of hours of exclusive content. It's easy to sign up, there's no contract, and you can cancel at any time. So come and join our community of free and critical thinkers by signing up with me here on Patreon today.